We now add some more circuitry. We want to add some switches and motors for the driver to be able to control the driver's side door lock, and for him to be able to control the passenger side door lock. We place two motor devices. We call the upper one DR door lock and the other one PS door lock. We need switches for the driver to control the driver's side door and the passenger side door locks. We select a switch and hook it up with the wires. Notice, as we connect the power wire, a splice is automatically created, and the original wire splits in two. We rename the switch, prefixing it with DR to indicate it belongs to the driver's side circuitry. We will add the second switch in a different way. This time, we will overlap the pins of the switch onto the door lock. After naming it, we right-click Select Connected by Wire, and the system will automatically create wires between the two components. This can save a lot of time when wiring a large number of pins together. Don't like the routing? Simply select the wires, right-click, select Route Selected, and the wires are neatly routed. Now move the joggles over to the right to create more space for inserting inline connectors, which we'll put in later. Next, we add grounds for the door locks and connect them. Finally, we add power to the switch. We now create a graphical zone around the switches to indicate they are part of a common assembly that will be assembled into the drive armrest. Next, we create a second zone for the passenger side assembly components. We select a rocker switch from the symbol library, place it in the passenger armrest, give the device a name, prefixing it with a PS for the passenger door lock. Now we place a lockout switch, but this time we press the R key to rotate the device as we insert it. And we give it a name. We hook up the power wire for the lockout switch and add the rest of the wires in time-lapse. We click on the Save icon to save the design. The components in the driver's door zone will connect with the rest of the car via an inline connector, which we'll add now. From the toolbar, we click the Add Inline Connector icon, and this requires 3 clicks. The first 2 position the receptacle half, and the third one positions the plug side. We now have an inline pair. The first item, P1, is the plug half, and J1 is the receptacle half. To insert the inline on the next wire, wire W3, we double-click on P1 in the Design Browser tree and click on OK on the pop-up dialog. We create the receptacle outside the rectangular boundary and the plug on the inside. Notice how the connector symbols show a zigzag symbol. This indicates the same connector appears elsewhere in the diagram. Next, we create the inline across the two wires from the driver door lock switch and continue the object across the wires that travel to the passenger side. The exact appearance of all graphics in VeSys, such as line weights, fonts, labeling, and other graphic entities, such as the zigzag, are easily customized. The inline connector for wire 17 needs to be rotated. We do this using the R key. After the first click, press R to rotate. Create the receptacle side and then finish with the plug side. Notice the cross-referencing in the pin information. We want to hide this, so we will select Properties first, and we will give the plug half of it a name. C_IL1. And then we will proceed to do some of the cleanup. Notice we can select both the objects of the inline pair and hide the cross-reference. We want to remove all pin names. We could predefine this behavior using the Style Set facility, or in this example, change it on the fly. First, expand the inline pair in the Design Browser tree, and then select every pin. We can then click Properties and uncheck the visible box to hide all the pin names. Likewise, we don't want to see the names for the receptacle half, so we will select J1 and hide its name as well. The next step is to create harness connectors for the 4 switches. We select the plug icon from the toolbar. We select the right edge of the switch device and click to place the plug. Wire 14 will connect using the same connector, so we double-click it in the Design Browser. OK the pop-up, select the left edge and place it. Then select the plug, right-click, add a pin, create a pin, and select the green circle, and you will find the wire has now pulled away from the switch. We now create a second harness connector. Selecting the right edge and then selecting the left edge. Creating the connector on each side and adding the pin, and we have our second connector. For the courtesy switch, again select the right edge. Double-click it from the Design Browser and repeat for the left-hand side. Finally, for the fourth switch, we need to press the R key because we want to rotate the plug symbol. So we select the horizontal edge this time, press the R key and place it. Likewise, double-click P5 from the Design Browser tree. Select the bottom horizontal edge, press the R key, and place it. Now we have placed the 4 connectors. Let's do some tidying up. First, we will hide the pins, then hide the cross-references. We can multi-select pins in the diagram window, then do a right-click, Properties, and uncheck Visible. That hides all the pins. Next, we collapse each of the connectors, select them all, right-click, and hide the cross-references. We will name each connector to be similar to the name of the switch it's connected to. Except we'll prefix it with a C. We first copy the name of the switch, select the name, and copy the name. Now, double-click the connector to show its properties. Paste the name and prefix it with a C. We will time-lapse through the rest of the connectors in the same way. We want to hide the names of the 4 connectors in the driver's armrest zone. We select the 4 connectors in the diagram browser, right-mouse click to show their common properties, uncheck the visible box, and say OK to hide the names. We now want to rename each of the wires and define the color of each wire. First, we focus on wires which are connected to splices. We are going to name them with a number. We select wire 22 and call it 1. In time-lapse, we rename the remaining 6 wires. Notice the design browser on the left as each wire is renamed. We will give a wire color B to each of these wires. So we select them. Click the Attributes tab, and from the Wire Color drop-down, we select B. We will rename the remaining wires with a letter. We call the first one A, and then so on, in time-lapse. We now select the 6 wires in the Design Browser tree and give them a color R. Then we click on Save. Most of the objects in the driver armrest zone will be part of the driver's door harness, so we will now label them so that we can transfer them to the harness design. We use the Multi-Select facility in the Design Browser window. Pressing the Shift key, we select Wire 1, then F. Release the Shift key and press Ctrl and select the splices, the inline, and the 4 connectors. All of the cross-highlighted objects will belong to one harness, except the 4 switches, which will be assembled into the armrest. So with the object selected in the diagram browser, we right-click and in the Edit Harness attributes, we enter Door-DR. Then we click on Save.